9 spine-chilling tales of haunted encounters. Psychopaths exposed after nightmarish revelations. Lisa Nguyen thought she had escaped her demons by moving to the quiet suburban neighborhood of Maplewood, but the horror awaiting her was far worse than she could ever have imagined. Shadows flickered along her bedroom walls, stretching and twisting as if they had a life of their own, while whispers snaked through the halls, muddled and sinister. Every creak of the floorboards felt like fingers grasping at her heels, urging her to look back, to confront whatever dark truth lingered behind her. Was it just fatigue, or was there something more? At first glance, Maplewood was perfect, chirpy kids playing in freshly mowed yards, neighbors waving like life was a never-ending sunshine, and yet, that idyllic setting sent cold shivers running down her spine. The smiles of her neighbors stretched too long, their eyes gleaming with something she couldn't name. It was unsettling, like a scene from a horror film, where the quaint houses cloak dark secrets beneath their polished facades. One long shift at the diner. Her eyes barely open, Lisa stumbled home, fatigue clinging to her like the shadows in her new house. Just as she collapsed into bed, a crash echoed from the kitchen, unsettling her thoughts, shattering the calm of the night. Heart hammering, she crept through the dark, trembling hands outstretched, praying it wasn't what she feared. There, on the kitchen floor, lay shattered glass, glimmering like jagged teeth under the faint moonlight. Panic spiked, she called the police, but their dismissive laughter cut deeper than any crash. Overworked single mother, they concluded, leaving her haunted by their skepticism. Days slid by in a quagmire of anxiety and exhaustion. Then came Daniel, a handsome face with an easy smile, claiming to understand her struggles, a stranger who felt like an answer to her prayers. He was charming, a caretaker who got along with her kids, but as their acquaintance deepened, a nagging whisper of doubt snuck into her mind. There was something in how he lingered just a moment too long, a glint in his eye that sent icy tendrils of fear wrapping around her heart. Were her children safe with him? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Daniel lulled her into a sense of security while shadows danced in corners, her children finding peculiar trinkets buried in their backyard, each one connecting her deeper to the unsettlement brewing among her neighbors. Whispers would rise as she approached, their veiled laughter echoing in her ears, and a neighbor's sinister glee whenever she spoke of Maplewood's history sent icy fingers down her spine. That night, an unrelenting sense of dread drove Lisa to pack a bag. Everything felt wrong, the house breathing down her neck, her heart pounding in her ears. But laughter echoed from the other room, a dark melody laced with the innocence of her kids. Fighting the urge to flee, she hovered at doorways, frozen by the realization that the very hands she trusted were poised to drag her back into the madness she had tried to escape. Maplewood, with its friendly faces, was a web of swirling darkness, and she was caught within. As the wind howled and shadows flickered in every space, Lisa took a trembling step toward the truth. Would she unravel the mystery or be consumed by it as the darkness pulled around her, threatening to swallow her whole? The choice lay heavy, each heartbeat a countdown to an unseen terror that awaited her unraveling. The shadows felt thicker as Lisa stood, heart racing, breath coming in short gasps. She could hear the laughter of her children, hauntingly cheerful, echoing in the dimly lit hallway. Was it playful or something more sinister? She could barely tell anymore. Each cackle twisted inside her, turning the love she had for them into something sharp and painful. "Mom! Come play!" The call floated down to her, sweet and innocent, but it came wrapped in a layer of something she couldn't quite name, a layer she feared might be toxic. Steeling herself, Lisa forced her feet to move, to the door that separated her from the living room chaos. The laughter grew louder, almost jubilant, but with an undercurrent of something unsettling. As she opened the door, a rush of cool air brushed past her skin, sending shivers bolting down her spine. The scene before her was jarringly normal. Her kids, Emily and Noah, sat on the floor surrounded by the trinkets unearthed from their backyard excavation. Tiny hands clutched odd shapes: a rusted key, a cracked porcelain doll with one eye missing, a small box that appeared far older than anything she had ever owned. "Look, Mommy!" Emily exclaimed, holding the key high above her head. "It's magical! It can open any door!" The smile faltered on Lisa's face. "Where did you find these?" she asked, her voice trembling, trying to maintain control, but the question came out sharper than she intended. "They were buried," Noah chimed in, eyes wide with excitement. "We're gonna find more tomorrow." "Buried where?" she pressed, glancing at the backyard through the window, heart pounding like a war drum. "Next to the tree," Emily pointed, and as they did, shadows began to twist in the corners of the room, dark figures that seemed to nod in agreement. Lisa felt her throat dry, her instincts screaming. "You shouldn't be playing near that tree," she whispered, a tremor in her voice. "You don't know what's down there." "Nothing bad," Noah replied quickly, rolling his eyes as if she were being ridiculous. "Just things." The kids laughed again, and it twisted her heart. That laugh just last week it had felt so comforting. Now, twisted with echoes of the other laughter she had heard, it all felt wrong. She needed answers. The unease weighed heavily on her, as she recalled the eerie laughter from her neighbors, their glances sharp and calculating. No one had offered help when she called the police. They had found amusement in her fears. Grabbing the rusted key from Emily's hands, she turned toward the door. "I'm going to check that tree," she declared, conviction filtering through her fear. "No, Mommy! Please don't!" The urgency in Emily's voice sliced through her resolve, but Lisa's wrist tightened around the key. As she opened the door to the outside, cold air rushed in, wrapping around her like ice. The backyard was bathed in silvery moonlight, and the gnarled tree loomed ahead, sinister and twisted. What secrets lay buried at its roots? The wind howled, and branches whispered tales of despair. The laughter faded, a dreadful silence enveloped her as she stepped toward the tree. With every step, the shadows grew bolder, reaching out as if to catch her. Fueled by an adrenaline she didn't understand, she placed the key against the tree trunk. Would it work? Did it really hold that sort of magic? In that moment, a low rumble echoed beneath the ground, a warning. "Mom!" Noah called, and that single word sliced through the quiet. Lisa hesitated, heart pounding heavily in her chest. She felt a pull to the key, a promise of revelation, but a voice in her head warned her to turn back. What lay beneath that tree? What had her children unearthed? As the ground shuddered and shadows flared, she faced a decision that would ripple through her world, threatening everything she held dear. Would she turn back and protect her children, or would she dig deeper into the heart of Maplewood's dark secret? And as she stood there, dread swirling in her stomach, she knew she was about to find out the answers that the neighborhood had held close for too long. The shadows writhed eager, as Lisa gripped the key tighter, feeling its cold metal bite into her palm. The tree's bark seemed to pulse, an ominous rhythm echoing her heart. Each moment stretched, wrapping around her like a shroud. "Mom, please!" Emily's pleading voice reached her again, a raw plea for safety mingling with the palpable tension. But Lisa was entranced. The key shimmered, igniting a strange hunger for discovery within her. What if it really could unlock something hidden? The earth beneath her quaked, a low growl that rumbled through her body. She felt it in her bones, the ancient warning of the ground. The gnarled roots twisted like writhing serpents beneath the surface, lurking, waiting. And yet, the whispers of her children pulled at her, a siren's call. "Mommy!" Noah's voice was higher now, panic lacing his words. Lisa tore her gaze from the tree to her children. Their faces were pale, eyes wide, and she suddenly saw them as harmless prey, lost in the dark. "They're just playing," she told herself, brushing their fear aside. "They don't feel the danger." But as their laughter grew remoter, distant in the thickening air, a chill slithered down her spine. She turned back to the tree, her breath hitching in her throat. The key felt heavier now, each rivet sharp and throbbing in her hand. Without thinking, she pushed it against the trunk, heart racing, hoping to find the door it claimed would open. The key slipped in, fitting perfectly, as if it had waited eons for this moment. A sickening rustle erupted from within the tree, and instinct exploded through her. Screw this! She pulled her hand back, spine tingling with the weight of something hidden. Mom! The desperation in Noah's voice triggered a new resolve. She should flee, grab her children, run back into the safety of the house. But what if before she could second-guess herself, she twisted the key, feeling resistance, the lock inside groaning? Nothing could prepare her for what happened next. The ground shook violently, sending her sprawling. Leaves rustled ominously overhead, while an anguished scream trapped, timeless echoed from below. It was a voice that felt familiar yet utterly foreign, chilling her to the core. "Mommy!" Emily screamed, her little body trembling. The night turned dark, shadows pooling like ink, blurring the lines of the backyard until everything felt unreal, a waking nightmare. The ground split violently, and dirt flew into the air as a shape began to emerge, twisted, horrific. "Run!" Lisa shouted, her instincts kicking in. She lunged for her children, but the shadows reached, grasping at her legs, trying to hold her back. Panic surged, a blinding terror that wrapped around her throat. But Noah was already moving, pulling Emily away from the encroaching dark. "Mom! Please!" The sound cut through her like a knife, forcing Lisa's attention back to her children. With raw strength, she yanked the key from the tree, the roots vibrating as if they were screaming. The ground beneath them groaned a warning? A plea? She turned, heart hammering, and ran, urgency fueling her every step. They could not stay here. As they bolted toward the house, footsteps echoed behind them, the void growing denser, hungry. "Mommy, please!" Emily whimpered, and a part of Lisa wanted to reassure her, but the truth hung thick in the air: they weren't safe. "Lock the door! Lock it now!" Lisa shouted, her voice breaking as they crossed the threshold into the house. She slammed the door, heart racing, anxiety gnawing at her edges. But what had emerged? What had she disturbed? Sounds were muffled now, but still they echoed in her mind, the laughter fading into something dark and menacing. All at once, the key dropped from her hand, clattering to the floor, a horrific reminder of what lay beyond. "Mommy, I'm scared." Emily's small voice trembled, and Lisa grabbed her, holding her tight, feeling Noah's small hand clutch her leg. Whatever secrets that tree held were out now, and they would pay the price for uncovering them. But that scream, the one that sounded so familiar, lingered in her mind unresolved. Time was running out, and as she gazed out the window, she saw silhouettes moving through the yard, dark and twisted, peering back at her. What were they? And what terrible fate awaited them for turning their backs on the tree? With her heart thundering in her chest, Lisa realized it wouldn't end here. She had to uncover the truth behind that haunting cry. But as she shivered, knowing the children could sense it too, she whispered in hushed tones, "What have we done?" The night was far from over, and it was just beginning to reveal its terrors. The silence in the house was suffocating, thick like fog. Lisa held her children close, breaths shallow and quick. The shadows outside danced along the walls, their shapes shifting, creeping. She had locked the door, but that simple action felt like a flimsy barrier against an ancient evil. "No, Emily, it's okay," she lied, trying to muster a calm she didn't feel. But her heart raced, thrumming in her ears like a warning bell. She glanced towards the window, the tendrils of darkness pressing against the glass, eager to break in. "Mommy, what's out there?" Noah's small voice trembled, eyes darting back at the still closed door. "I don't know," Lisa whispered. Panic clawed at her throat as fear wove deeper into her bones, a chill curling like smoke around her. "Let us just stay quiet, don't make a sound." The murmurs outside grew louder, low and guttural, a cacophony of twisted voices that echoed from the depths of the void. Lisa's stomach churned. Those voices, they sounded so familiar. "No!" She shook her head, trying to dispel such thoughts. She faced her children, putting on a brave face. "We need to stay away from the windows. Come to the living room." Gripping their hands tightly, she coaxed them away from the window. As they shuffled to the flickering light of the living room, doubt settled in. What was that scream? What did I release? She had summoned something, and it was out there, lurking, waiting. Then it struck her. The key. It wasn't just an object, it was a conduit. Whatever it had unlocked, whatever had crawled free, was now searching for freedom, and they had drawn its attention. Mommy Emily quivered, clutching her doll almost too tightly. I don't want to play anymore. I know, sweetheart, Lisa said softly, brushing a lock of hair from her daughter's forehead, feeling the smooth warmth of her skin. But as her fingers brushed against that innocence, dread wrapped around her like a vice. A heavy thud resonated from the door. Breath caught in her throat. She glanced back just in time to see a shadow drift across the bottom of the door, as if something was testing their defenses. Mom! The door! Noah pointed, panic flooding his voice. The thuds turned to scratches, nails clawing against the wood, dragging in erratic patterns. It sounded desperate, furious, and it was getting louder. Please, no, Lisa's heart raced. They needed to escape. She could feel the walls closing in. The door was a false protector. The key! They might be able to use it to trap whatever was out there, to reverse the curse of the tree. Stay here, she ordered, forcing herself to sound brave. I'll be right back. With shivering steps, she edged toward the kitchen where she had discarded the key, running through her options. If the whispers were right, it was a key that could bind. But to what? To unlock or to shut away. Just as she reached the drawer, another crash jolted through the house, rattling the lights. She turned, fear coursing through her veins. Mommy! Emily cried out, the sound piercing through the cacophony. She spun back to the living room, ready to sprint to them, when suddenly the temperature plummeted. A fog crept in, curling through the cracks, wrapping around her like icy fingers. The whispers transformed into words, growing louder, clearer, a cacophony of taunts, filling the room with a haunting familiarity. Help us, Mommy, help! Her heart dropped. The cries, they were hers. Shattering memories wrapped in despair hung in the air. It can't be, Mom! Noah shouted again, his voice now tinged with pure terror. What were they asking for? What had she done? Steeling herself, she raced back to her children, the key clutched tightly in her hand. She'd have to confront whatever lingered in the dark. With every step back, the shadows moved closer, hungry for what had been unleashed. Still, dawning realization struck. No matter the truth behind that haunting scream, something unimaginably dark was now hungry. But at that moment, a spine-chilling thought crept in, ghostly yet undeniable. If those whispers were pleading for mercy, what awaited them next? And as darkness began to seep through the very walls of the house, another crash echoed. It wouldn't be long before they had to face whatever awaited outside that door. What had they truly unlocked? The living room felt colder now, the air thick with a palpable dread as Lisa raced toward her children. The whispers grew louder, twisting her memories around her like a tightening noose. She reached for Noah, grabbing him by the shoulders, her eyes wild. The shadows were crawling toward them, slithering along the floor like serpents. Mommy, what is going on? Noah's voice cracked, terror etched on his young face. Just hold on to Emily. We'll get through this. Lisa plastered a smile that trembled across her lips, but inside she was screaming. She swept Emily into her arms, this fragile doll of a girl, and they stood together, backs pressed against the wall. She could feel the thumping of her heart against Emily's small body. The scratching at the door intensified. Each scrape against the wood felt like nails on a chalkboard, ripping through the last threads of her sanity. It was desperate. It was furious. But there was something else, something human lurking beneath the malevolence. Noah, can you hear them? She hissed, her voice almost lost in the chaos erupting around them. They're calling for help. With wide eyes, Noah nodded. But they're not nice people, Mommy. They sound hungry. As the shadows crept closer, the temperature dropped further still. Lisa's breath clouded in front of her, the moisture freezing in the air. She could see it now, dark forms pulling themselves into view, seeping through the door's cracks. They were shaped like people, but twisted, their faces indistinct, just shadows of nightmares. "Help us!" a voice shrieked, and Lisa's heart clenched. It sounded painfully familiar, echoing memories of sorrow. But amidst the cacophony, another voice rang clear, more dominant, more sinister. It called for blood, hers, with a hunger that sent ice coursing through her veins. "Hold on," she snapped, forcing her gaze back to her children. "We need to use the key. I don't know what it might do, but it's the only chance we have." Recognizing the key's significance filled her with a shred of hope. It might bind whatever was out there or seal it away forever. But as the whispers turned into wails, writhing through the air, she hesitated. What if it unleashes something worse? Fear clouded her mind. What if in trying to save them, she only made things far more horrific? "Mommy, please!" Emily pleaded, gripping her tightly, the plush doll forgotten. The shadows lunged toward them, as if sensing their indecision. It was now or never. Okay. She blinked back tears. Her trembling hands fumbled for the key in her pocket. Cold metal pressed against her palm. A jolt of determination surged through her. "We're going to." A thunderous crash interrupted her, the doors splintering under the strain of whatever waited outside. Dark shapes burst through, grotesque forms swirling in the haze, faces twisting into expressions of maddened rage and unspeakable sorrow. "Help us!" they echoed with mournful conviction, clawing at her, yearning for release. Lisa shut her eyes against the chaos, drawing strength from her children's presence, their warmth against her skin. "On the count of 3, we'll use the key." 1, 2, but before she could utter the final number, the figures rushed into the room, spectral hands reaching out. "Mommy!" Noah screamed. Lisa opened her eyes just in time to see a shadow collide with her, the darkness swallowing her whole. Everything went black. And in that consuming void, realization hit like a brick: the key was never just a key. It was a choice. As the screaming intensified, her heart pounded louder, wondering who or what was truly begging for help now. Would she surrender to the horror, or fight through the madness? What awaited them beyond the door, lost in that merciless darkness? Would they be freed, or consumed forever? Lisa emerged from the blackness, gasping, the taste of iron and ash hanging heavily in the air. The shadows were still there, wrapping themselves around her like a familiar blanket of fear, but now they pulsed with a sickening warmth that sent a jolt of panic through her. Her children were gone where? A gut-wrenching hollowness clawed at her chest. Noah? Emily? The names fell from her lips like desperate prayers, each syllable swallowed by the haunting silence that enveloped her. She blinked against the darkness, trying to pierce through the void. It was thicker now, heavier, as if something unseen gripped her soul. With trembling hands, she searched her pocket for the key, her only lifeline. But it was gone. The realization hit her like a slap. "Mommy!" A voice echoed in the distance, faint but unmistakable. "Help me! Emily!" Lisa cried out, her heart racing as she stumbled forward. Each step felt like wading through molasses, resistance battling against her determination. The voices grew louder, swirling around her, drowning her in a cacophony of agony and despair. Yet one voice fought its way through Noah's. "Mommy, there's something behind you." Fear wrapped its icy fingers around her throat. Instinctively she whirled around, her breath catching in her chest. There, just within the shadows, something flickered, a glimpse of a figure dragging itself toward her. Its movements were jerky, unnatural, like a marionette with its strings cut. "Run, Mommy!" Noah's voice was frantic, echoing somewhere ahead. But Lisa stood frozen, petrified by the sight of the ghastly form edging closer, the faint light revealing features too horrid to comprehend. Its jaw hung open, the void inside gaping wider, revealing rows of teeth more like shards of glass than anything natural. "The key," Lisa murmured to herself, the words barely a whisper. She had to find it. It could still mean salvation or doom. In the dim light surrounding the specter, she felt a magnetic pull. It beckoned to her, an invitation laced with dread. The shadows whispered promises only she could hear. "Join us, Lisa. Just surrender." "No!" she shouted, clenching her fists. I won't be one of you. With every ounce of strength, she turned away from the horrifying entity and sprinted. The air buzzed with the rasping breaths of dark shapes following her, the whispers angry and desperate. They begged, pleaded, but Lisa's thoughts were singular, focused. She had to find her children. Please, let me find them, she cried, her voice raw, piercing through the darkness that sought to consume her. I'll do anything. The shadows paused, as if contemplating her words. When Lisa glanced back over her shoulder, the ghastly figure was gone, but the darkness felt different. It pulsed alive. Lisa, come home, the shadows whispered in cruel harmony. Heart racing, she pressed on, the taste of desperation as bitter as copper on her tongue. The whispers grew frantic, almost frantic, as if they were starting to unravel. They wanted her, and the key was not just a tool but a tormentor, something that would bind her eternally to this realm of darkness if she completely surrendered. Ahead, a faint glow flickered. Was it hope? She dashed toward it, praying it would lead her back to her children. But as she neared, its warmth turned to searing heat, engulfing her in a blaze that scorched her senses. The light revealed the door, a shimmering threshold that pulsated with ominous energy. Surrender or fight? Echoed the cruel whispers around her. The choice tightened like a vice in her chest, squeezing her breath away. Could she go back? Could she risk everything? Or was the darkness still waiting for her to fall into its embrace? What do I do? She whimpered, heart pounding, eyes wide. And just then, a voice echoed through the hall. Mommy! Hope surged through her body. But was it real? Or just another trick of the shadows? With the air thickening around her, an urgent question loomed, heavy and foreboding. Which path would lead her back to her children, and which would seal their fates forever? Mommy! The voice was nearer now, a piercing shard of sound that cut through the suffocating air. Lisa's heart soared. She turned, heart racing, desperation narrowing her vision. Emily! Noah! She shouted, swallowing down the fear that threatened to choke her. The dim glow ahead flickered as if winking at her, an untrustworthy friend promising hope. The shadows danced along the walls, twisting, curling, grasping at her with invisible fingers. Lisa hesitated, dread clawing at her gut. Was the glow a way out? Or was it the darkness trap, luring her deeper into despair? The whispers returned, taunting her. Stay with us, you belong here. She clenched her fists, her resolve hardening. No! With determined steps, she moved toward the light, each stride a battle against the heavy air that pressed down on her, a weight she could barely bear. As she pushed through the threshold, the searing heat enveloped her, an angry wave that ricocheted through her body. She gasped, skin prickling as shimmering tendrils of heat snaked around her. But in that moment, she felt something else, a flicker of recognition. Mommy, the voice echoed again, clearer now, filled with urgency. Emily! Lisa stumbled as realization washed over her. This was not a regular door. It was a portal. Panic surged as she barreled through, the heat tightening its grasp. Suddenly, she was in a new space. The air was sweeter but laden with threat, like the calm before a storm. Shadows lingered at the edges, slithering around unseen corners. She blinked, scanning the dim space, searching for her children. Where are you? She whispered, terror clawing at her throat. A soft rustle caught her ear. She spun around. Noah? Emily? And then she saw them, not far off, huddled together amid swirling shadows. Relief crashed into her like a tide, but it was cut short by the piercing shrieks bursting from the darkness. Mommy! Noah reached out, his small hands trembling. Help us! They were trapped, engulfed by the creeping dread. Lisa dashed toward them, heart pounding, each step feeling like it brought her closer to salvation. But as she approached, a massive shadow emerged, looming and twisting. It wasn't just one figure, no, it was a grotesque amalgamation of faces, bodies merging in pain, their hollow eyes piercing right into her soul. In a voice that echoed, mocking her, it rasped, "She cannot save you, you're ours." Lisa felt the ground beneath her tremble, a deep roar of anguish vibrating through her bones. The darkness surged, as if feeding off her fear, hungry for her despair. No! You can't have them! The words burst from her, fueled by a fury she didn't know she possessed. She stretched out her hand toward her children, but the entity lunged forward. Fear paralyzed her in place, but she forced herself to breathe, to believe she could fight. The glowing portal pulsed behind her like an angry heartbeat, still open, still tempting. Fight or flee? The choice hovered in her mind, heavy with consequence. Noah! Emily! Grab my hand! She screamed, hoping they could hear her over the chaos. They looked lost, fragile. Shadows wrapped around them, trying to drag them into its maw. Time stood still as dread coiled tighter around her chest. What if she failed them? What if the darkness won? But just as Lisa felt utterly consumed, something snapped within her. I'm coming! She yelled, breaking free of her fear. She dove toward her children, arms outstretched, heart pounding in her ears. The dark creature lunged. In that moment of collision, a final embrace with the unknown, she would either save them or become part of the darkness forever. Would the light pull them through? Or would they be swallowed whole? The air thickened with dread, a storm of chaos, and the lantern of hope began to flicker. The darkness surged, and Lisa felt it hit her like a solid wall. It enveloped her, stealing her breath, making her skin crawl. The agonizing faces of the entity twisted in mockery, their mouths moving in sync with the anguished screams echoing through the suffocating air. Mommy! More urgent this time. She could see Noah's eyes wide with terror and Emily curled up against him, their small bodies shaking. Don't let go! As she leaped forward, the creature's shadowed claws reached out, clawing at her, grasping at her resolve. Every step felt like wading through tar, her limbs heavy with dread. But she refused to stop, refused to submit. Hold on to each other! She screamed, her voice barely breaking through the cacophony of despair. As Lisa lunged, darkness latched onto her, raking cold fingers down her arms, pulling her back, dragging her toward the abyss. Mommy! Their voices were now a warble, a dissonant choir that threatened to drive her mad. Terror clawed at her insides, but deep inside, something sparked. The love she felt for her children ignited a fire of defiance. With one great heave, Lisa flung herself forward, arms coming around her children in a fierce embrace. A surge of warmth flooded through her as their soft, trembling bodies connected with hers. She felt their fear, their desperation, but also their will to fight. Together, she urged, needing them to understand. We have to fight back. But the entity roared, its multiple voices trembling the ground beneath their feet. In horror, Lisa watched as shadows began to swirl faster, closing in on them, seeking to snuff out their light. A blaze of heat surged from the portal behind her, pulling at her consciousness, a lifeline against the darkness, but she couldn't turn back. Not now. The faces of the entity twisted agonizingly, mouths pulling back into dreadful grins that spoke of centuries of despair. Mommy! Emily sobbed, her little fingers clutching Lisa's shirt. Hold tight. Lisa squeezed her children closer, feeling the weight of their fear merge with her determination. And then, as the suffocating darkness pressed in, she felt an answer slip through her mind, an instinct urging her onward. With adrenaline pumping, Lisa released a guttural scream that shook her from her core. We are not yours! The words pierced the night, like a beacon cutting through fog. Suddenly, the shadows hesitated, swirling erratically around them, uncertain. The stillness wrapped around Lisa like a warm cocoon, emboldening her. Now! She shouted, pulling herself and her children toward the flickering portal. The darkness roared in defiance, reaching out with clawed hands trying to grasp them, but Lisa fought against it, as if propelling them into the light. They surged forward, the warmth growing stronger, urging them closer with promises of safety. Lisa's heart raced, each beat pounding with hope. Just as the shadows began to grasp at their heels, she leaped through the threshold, dragging her children with her. The world twisted violently around them, light swirling and enveloping them in an embrace that felt far gentler than the clutches of darkness. But as they crossed over, a tugging sensation pulled at them, a last-ditch effort from the shadows. Lisa turned back for just a heartbeat, her heart sinking as she caught a glimpse of the monstrous entity stretching its arms through the portal, eager to reclaim what it had almost lost. "No!" she screamed. The portal shimmered and seethed, ready to close. "We want to let it take you." Noah's voice broke through her terror, igniting a renewed strength inside her. In that brief moment, she made the decision that would change everything. Together. "We must let them know." As they surged through the final shreds of darkness, a rift tore open deep within her. Beneath the sound of chaos, a whisper snuck into her mind, a dreadful promise. "You cannot escape forever, you will return." With a final push, they flew through the portal into a blinding light, the entity's howl fading into silence. But as they landed on the other side, reality rippled. The world around them felt warped and eerie, colors dulling into shades of gray. She looked at her children, their faces pale but eyes sparkling with tears of relief and confusion. "Where are we?" Emily asked, her small voice quivering. Lisa's stomach dropped. Nothing felt safe, nothing felt real. A haunting echo of laughter slipped through the air, chilling her bones. It wasn't over. The darkness had followed them. "What have we unleashed?" she whispered, eyeing the horizon. The shadows writhed at the edges of their new realm, whispering secrets that sent a spine-chilling shiver through her. The battle was far from finished, and Lisa could already feel the darkness gathering again, plotting its next move. The gray landscape felt like a nightmare suspended between reality and the void. Lisa's heart raced as she scanned the horizon. It was as if they had stepped into a world submerged in desolation. Creaking shadows danced at the periphery of her vision, teasing her with flickers of movement that made her skin crawl. "Mommy, I don't like this place," Noah whispered, his voice cracking. "Me either," Emily added, clutching her brother's arm tightly. The three of them huddled together, buoyed by the warmth of their shared fear. Lisa took a deep breath, trying to center herself. They were through the portal. They had escaped the entity, at least for now. But the laugh that echoed through the stillness felt like a creeping reminder of the threat lingering just out of sight. "I'll protect you," she promised, though her own voice wavered. In the distance, she could hear the soft rustling of leaves, though there were no trees to be seen. It was a hollow sound, as if the world itself was empty. A low, sinister whisper wound through the air, just beyond comprehension. "Can you hear that?" Lisa murmured, glancing nervously over her shoulder. "I don't want to hear it." Emily pressed her face into Noah's shoulder, trembling. Just as Lisa was about to respond, a shadow shot past, an outline that was too fast to fully grasp. It darted behind a crumbling wall, barely visible. "Stay close," she commanded, her voice taut with urgency. Area by area, every corner of this realm felt burdened with memories of dread. What horrors had stemmed from this unwanted crossing? As they moved forward, the light began to wane, leaving only twisted silhouettes standing sentry around them. The air thickened, giving off the scent of decay, causing nausea to twist in Lisa's stomach. "Look!" Noah pointed, his voice shaky. Ahead they saw a shabby figure emerge from the shadows, its movements jerky and unnatural. It seemed to materialize from nothing, as if it had been stitched together from the fabric of nightmares. Just an outline at first, but with every step forward, the figure revealed more terrifying detail. Ghostly skin stretched over protruding bones, eyes like empty pits, lids flickering with a life they should not possess. "Run!" Lisa shouted, urgency fueling her legs as she grabbed both children's hands. They turned to flee, but the ground shifted beneath them, trembling as the wraith-like shape drew near, its rasping breath echoing in the hollow space. "Noah! Emily! Keep running!" As they sprinted, the wraith opened its mouth, or what had once been a mouth. No sound came out, only a dreadful silence that felt like it would crush them under its weight. With desperation fueling her heart, Lisa searched frantically for an escape. Shadows twisted and morphed as the winds picked up, a fierce storm brewing that threatened to swallow them whole. "Why won't it let us go?" she gasped, sweeping around a looming structure that looked like the remnants of a long-forgotten building. "We're not supposed to be here!" Noah cried, his voice tinged with panic. Next to him, Emily stumbled. Lisa's heart clenched. Dropping to one knee, she reached for her daughter. "I won't let them take you," she promised, pulling Emily close. The air chilled further, the pressure wrapping tighter. It felt like the very ground was conspiring against them, urging them to falter. Then she saw a flicker of light at the far end of the crumbling ruin, glowing faintly like a beacon in the dark. "That way!" she yelled, as they began to run again, tighter now to each other, arms linked. But her bearings were slipping. The shadows grew darker, murmuring secrets in broken whispers. The laughter returned, louder now, echoing through the ruins, and Lisa's resolve faltered. "Mommy!" Noah's shout pierced through the clamor, filled with a mix of terror and urgency. She turned just in time to see the wraith extending its arms, a ghastly figure caught between two realms, clawing at the air for them. With one last burst of will, Lisa sprinted toward the glow, pulling both children along. Behind them, the wraith's screams crescendoed, melding into a symphony of despair. Not now! They couldn't give in. The light was so close, it felt like salvation. Just as they reached the edge of the glowing shard, a searing pain shot through Lisa's chest, as if the very shadows were lashing out one last time. Falling forward, she pushed Noah and Emily into the light, the warmth searing but welcoming. But as she followed, a sharp panic gripped her. The wraith's voice broke through, an echo of its laughter solidifying in her mind a promise that cut through the air like a knife. "You can't escape, not forever." And then, the light enveloped her completely, leaving her breathless and teetering on the edge of fear and hope. A new place awaited, but what would it hold? Lisa's heart pounded wildly in her chest as she struggled to comprehend their next challenge. She could feel a chill at the edges of her mind, the shadows lingering still. The darkness wasn't far behind, and she knew this was not the end. She steadied herself, ready to face whatever was next, knowing the wraith had not finished with them yet. Would they find refuge, or would the horrors continue to chase them? Lisa blinked against the blinding light, and suddenly they were no longer in that realm of shadows. The world twisted and shimmered around them, settling into a soft, silver hue as if they had been reborn. But the relief was short-lived, an unsteady tranquility wrapping around her like a thin veil. "Where are we now?" Emily whimpered, clutching Noah's hand tightly, her little fingers trembling. "I don't know, sweetie," Lisa said, scanning the surrounding area. They were standing on the rim of what appeared to be a serene meadow, bright grass glistening as morning dew caught the sun's rays. But the tranquil beauty was deceptive. Gnarled trees swayed uneasily on the fringes, and shadows flitted just beyond their periphery. Chills danced down her spine as she sensed malevolence lingering. "Keep close to me," Lisa instructed, her heart pounding like a war drum. She felt a familiar tightness in her chest, a warning bell signaling that danger was still lurking. "Mom, can we go home?" Noah asked, his eyes swimming with unshed tears. "Yes, honey, we'll get home. I promise," she replied, though her voice lacked conviction. But beneath the serene surface, a disturbance stirred. The air thickened and crackled, almost buzzing with energy. Lisa glanced toward the trees, shadows swirling almost playfully before snapping against the light. "Listen!" Emily's small voice broke through the tension, pulling them back to reality. The whispers returned, entwined with the soft rustling of grass, a haunting melody that tugged at her heart. It wasn't just fear they carried, it was something else. It was a desperate yearning, a plea that pierced through the charm of this beautiful illusion. "Stay together," Lisa commanded, gripping their hands as she started to move forward. She felt her children draw strength from her lead, but the unease clawed at her insides. Each step felt weighted, the shadows stretching a little closer, creeping forward like fingers reaching out for their prey. "Mommy, I'm scared." Noah's voice trembled as he pressed closer against her side. "Stay brave. We're going to find a safe place. We just need to keep moving," she assured, tightening her grip as a shiver of dread coursed through her. But the shadows were unchanged. They began to whisper names, familiar voices blending into a sorrowful chorus that echoed around them. "Help us! Lisa, help us!" It was almost overwhelming. She could feel memories rising, the faces of those she had lost flickering through her mind like film on a reel. Her mother, her friend Sarah. It felt like being unmoored, each name a chain trying to reel her back into the darkness. No! Lisa shouted, clenching her jaw until it hurt. She wouldn't let them pull her back. You're not taking us! But the whispers grew louder, angry voices now, accusing, begging, intertwined with the sinister laughter that echoed around them. Shadows surged forward, fueled by her hesitation. Soon they were engulfed in an amalgam of darkness and despair. Mom! Emily cried, tears spilling down her cheeks. Lisa felt the warmth of her daughter's small hand slip slightly, panic surging within her. No! Hold on! With a swift motion, she turned around, searching for the light, the one safe point amidst the chaotic shadows. Stay close, I need you with me, please. They plunged into a full-hearted sprint, feet pounding against the earth beneath as the wails grew louder, the shadows twisting behind them, reaching for their ankles. Lisa's breath came in ragged gasps, her own heart racing as despair clawed at her throat. We can beat this! We can! And with each block of darkness that whipped around them, a new resolve sparked. She wouldn't falter. She had come too far and sacrificed too much to be ensnared again. Ahead, the meadow began to shimmer with a soft luminescence, a radiant pulse lighting up from within a promise of hope. Holding her children close, she charged toward it, heart pounding fiercely. Almost there. Just a little farther. The wraiths shrieked in fury behind them, clawing at the sunlight pouring toward them, their anguished forms twisting and thrashing. Don't look back! Lisa shouted, feeling their panic surrounding her. Keep running! With a final surge, the trio leaped into the glowing light, the warmth washing over them like a protective blanket. For a moment, everything froze, the shrieks of chaos fading into serene silence. Lisa gasped. Were they safe? One by one, the light enveloped them, illuminating the darkness that had sought to consume them whole. The shadows recoiled, shrieking, twisting into vapor as they were sent spiraling away from the barrier. And then silence. Lisa opened her eyes, breathing heavily, looking around. They were back at her modest home in Maplewood, breathable air, family pictures lining the wall, and the gentle hum of everyday life replacing the cacophony that had threatened to drown them. Mommy? Are we safe? Noah whispered, his small face etched with concern. Yes, Lisa replied, tears streaming down her face. Yes, we are safe. But deep down, shadows lurked, still a weight tethered to her heart. As they embraced, she knew the battle against the darkness was far from over. The portal had closed, but whispers clung to her ears like an echo that would never truly fade. Mommy! Emily's voice broke through. Yes, sweetheart? Can the shadows come back? Lisa shook her head, resolutely. No, they won't come back. We won't let them. As long as we stick together, we will always have light. But the lingering feeling of dread remained, a reminder that sometimes darkness hides in the familiar, waiting for the right moment to return. And with that, she vowed to protect her children fiercely, ready to face whatever came next, knowing they would face it together. Mommy? Emily asked, looking up with wide eyes. Let us make a new memory, Lisa declared, wiping her tears away. How about we bake cookies instead? As laughter tumbled from her children's lips, she embraced them tighter, brushing away the shadows that threatened to whisper truths they were not ready to confront yet. For the moment, they were safe, and love triumphed even against the deepest of darkness. But in the back of her mind, the voice whispered, insistent. You cannot escape forever, you will return, and deep down, she knew the time would come when they would face that truth again. Now, dear friends, if this story gripped your heart and sent chills down your spine, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Click that bell to ensure you don't miss a single, exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, you know it makes a difference. And I want to hear from you. Flood that comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this gripping conclusion. Join us on this journey, together we thrive.